This week in the Herald.
Good afternoon and welcome to this week's edition of the Editor's Wrap. I'm Rochelle de Kock. Now, we've had a very busy week on the news front, but one story that definitely gets Nelson Mandela Bay intrigued is the latest in the Vicki Terblanche murder case. There was quite a bit of development this week, and for those of you who have been keeping up with the news, you'd know that we had been covering the stories about Vicki Terblanche, who was murdered in October last year, and subsequently her boyfriend and later ex-husband or estranged husband, who has been accused of orchestrating her murder. Someone who has been covering this story is our court reporter Devon Koen, and Devon's going to be speaking to us today about the latest in this Vicki Terblanche saga. So before we get to this week, Devon, can you just tell us basically in a nutshell what has been happening with this murder that has really intrigued Nelson Mandela Bay for the past few months?
Okay, well, thank you very much, Rochelle. And what we do know so far that Vicki Terblanche's body was discovered in a shallow grave in green bushes just outside Gqeberha on the 23rd of October. It is alleged she was murdered around about the 18th at her home in Moon Park, and then her body was then obviously moved to where it was found. Her boyfriend at the time, Maynard Leach, and his friend Devon Koen were subsequently arrested and charged with the murder. Her estranged husband Arnold was then arrested about 2 or 3 weeks after that, where he was also then charged with conspiracy to commit murder and defeating the ends of justice. He is the only one who applied for bail out of the three. Leach and Koen both abandoned their bail applications. Koen has now allegedly turned to a four-state witness, and Leach has also apparently given a statement to the police with regards to his involvement in the matter. So, Arnold Terblanche brought his application for bail in November. It was then denied in January, with the magistrate stating that there was a very strong chance that he would be a flight risk and that he would interfere with witnesses. Those were the two main purposes for denying bail at the time. Yeah. He then brought an application to appeal that decision to the High Court, where he claimed that the magistrate had erred in his findings, stating that he had very strong ties to the city because of his businesses and so forth, and that he wouldn't interfere with state witnesses because he didn't know who the other witnesses were besides Koen and Leach. In arguments with regards to that, the state said that he's sold a lot of his assets already. He's no longer the managing director of the business that he was running. So he doesn't really have such strong links anymore. It's basically just two properties that he has.
So what happened this week then? Because was he granted leave to appeal?
No, it was dismissed.
Okay.
Judge Glenn Huisson found that the state had proved that he was a flight risk should he be granted bail, and that he would interfere with witnesses from his past conduct, and that's regarding the divorce proceedings that were in place between him and Vicki, where he had coerced people to, for example, Leach. He tried to get Leach to entrap Vicki in certain things, such as trying to accuse her of taking drugs, of being an unfit mother. That has all come out in court proceedings so far, before the trial has even started. So we can see a pattern of him interfering in legal proceedings, in the sense that if he's capable of doing that during divorce proceedings, he would probably try and do the same thing during his trial.
Yes, and that is the state's argument.
Yes.
Yeah. So there was quite a bit of a scathing judgment in the High Court this week, and the judge saying that there was a very real prospect that Terblanche will actually be jailed. Can you just talk to us a little bit about the judgment? What was it?
Well, the judgment was very thorough, and it really did go to the nitty-gritty of what the state currently has as evidence. Obviously, we don't know all the exact details of the state's evidence, but we do know it's possibly a prima facie case, which means that the evidence speaks overwhelmingly against the accused. So as I mentioned, we've got the 204 witness, Devon Koen. We've got another person involved, Mario de Jr., who has also given a confession statement where he details his involvement in removing the body. Vicky's body. There are another 3 witnesses that haven't been identified that came out now in this week in the judgment as well. They just called witnesses X, Y, and Z. Now these witnesses apparently have evidence of the vehicle that was used by Leach and Cullis to dispose of Vicky's body. So those witnesses, we don't know what the statements say at the moment, but it seems that they've got very strong evidence to give as well about the whereabouts of the vehicle, who rented the vehicle, payments made, things like that. These are all things that are going to be tested in the trial, but like I said, Judge Koen was very, very thorough in looking at these aspects and stating that there is a very strong possibility that he's going to serve a very long jail term, which then obviously if people are facing something like that, they would more than likely in certain cases try to evade their trial or try to avoid such a long sentence.
So what is the way forward now? What now?
Well, he could possibly appeal to the Supreme Court of Appeal, but it's a very different kettle of fish and a very different process that's involved there. The Supreme Court of Appeal doesn't necessarily look at the evidence, but they would rather look at how the magistrates and the judge conduct themselves in their inquiries into whether or not he can be granted bail. It doesn't seem at the moment that he will go that far. We are now just waiting to see where the investigation goes further.
Look, this is obviously a very intriguing case. I mean, who can forget a very similar case with Christopher Panayiotou, who we know is still serving jail time for his involvement in the murder of his wife, Jade Panayiotou. So I think there's so much intrigue and so much interest from readers and from residents in the city. So I think we're definitely going to be glued to that case. And yeah, thank you very much, Devon, for sitting with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in for this week of the Editor's Wrap, and we'll definitely be keeping you abreast with what's happening in the latest in Mr. Blanche case. Thank you.